I said this before. The only thing that really works against violence and perpetrators of violence is spiritual judgment. I've been decreeing and placing repercussions on violent predators around me for years now. And when you operate in this power, this is not just authority, this is power. When you operate in this power, the violent perpetrators will find out sooner or later it's you. It's you shutting them down. How will they know it's you shutting them down? Because once you shut down violence around you, those that operate in violence will sense that the violence can't work against you nor with you. They'll notice that you operate in natural autonomy. And that's the one thing violent people don't want, that you operating in natural autonomy. Because when you operate in natural autonomy, you'll see through things very easily. And violent people don't want you to see through things. Because violence is intended to blur your perception so you won't see through things. All violence is relief seeking. There's something an individual wants or a group wants that it can't get because it's either not desirable or it's outrageous. And they know that naturally people would not comply with it. So they use the threat of injury or injuries or death itself to make sure people comply with the outcome they're longing for. Because the outcome most likely will be at the expense of someone else. That's all violence is. It's a relief seeking. And when you shut down violence, you'll figure out soon who are those that invest in violence. Because it's when you shut down violence around you that those violent perpetrators become the most desperate. They just can't have it that you don't operate in fear. When you have no anxiety at all, that is what frightens them. That's why they then try to intimidate you or to threaten you or they begin to lash out against you. Why? They want to trigger you into the same anxious state as they are. Because when you're not in this anxious state, they can't easily essentially dump their weights on you. Most people don't know this. You are a spirit being as a human being. So when your energy field, or what you call your aura, is clean, or better said, when your aura has a cover around it, folks can't dump negative energy on you. They can't even come close to you with their negative energy. So that's why, for example, you call the bank just to ask a few questions. Or there's this debt collector that keeps harassing you, and you ask for documentation, and you ask for so many times. And then the individual outside of the phone begins to complain and becomes so-called pissed off at you because they said, we already sent an email, blah, blah, blah. And you make plain onto the individual at the other end of the line, listen, you're the one claiming I need to pay something, so I can ask documentation as much as I want because you claiming it, not me. You're the one who should account for it. But you know what, often, I'm saying the best thing is not to even go into those discussions because those folks are trained to trigger you in anxiety. That's a big secret of this world. You need to be in anxiety for this world to operate. The moment you're not in anxiety, you are a threat to the functioning of the world. This may sound weird, but that's the way it is. I'm not telling you to do this experiment, okay? Because you shouldn't experiment with this. I'm telling you just do this, okay? Refuse to be anxious. I'm not telling you to repress it, just refuse to be anxious. Refuse to be fearful. And see how the behavior of people change towards you. When they don't sense that low vibration around you anymore, they'll perceive you as a threat. Suddenly people begin to say no to you often, or suddenly they'll begin to avoid you, or they begin to refuse your calls. Just refuse to be anxious. And they'll come up with all kinds of excuses why they so-called don't like you and all. Why? Because they can't have it when you operate in natural autonomy. This is it with narcissists. Or better said, people that are heading towards narcissism. They're not narcissists yet, but they're so narcissistic in their thinking, they're heading towards narcissism. People that operate in a narcissistic mindset, they need to have an anxious environment for them to operate in. Because their narcissistic attitude, or if they're a narcissist, narcissism cannot function in the light. It cannot function in reality. There needs to be darkness. So there needs to be anxiety for them to be comfortable. So when you don't operate in an anxious state, you can easily see through them, and their violence and their gaslighting won't work on you. And gaslighting, which is also a form of violence, is the only thing they have. So for them not to face their inner poverty, they need to dump that frustration on you. So you become blinded. So you won't see that in fact they are poor. That's how it goes. But you'll also see that the more you refuse to operate in fear, the more you operate in faith. After a while, all the violent perpetrators disappear from around you. They'll disappear. Once it becomes obvious that they'll fail every time they attempt to trigger you or to dump negative energy on you, every time their violence fails, it's a, how would I say, not embarrassment, but it's really a joke onto them. And the more they realize that you just refuse to give in to their fear and you keep walking by faith, you keep operating in natural autonomy anyway, every time they see you or encounter your influence, it backfires onto them. They'll remember all the effort they made and how it all failed. They're not used to face this. So, and every time they're triggered, they're the ones with the emotional landmines that go off, not you. So, they'll flee. They'll literally flee from you. Praise the Lord. You will encounter this when you walk by faith. That's why I remind you of it. Well, that's it for now. Keep agreeing with Christ and be at peace.